We used to have a saying in naval aviation: complacency kills. In a carrier-based F-14 Tomcat squadron, during certain contingency operations, like patrolling the no-fly zone over southern Iraq, we'd fall into a routine. Launch off the Cat, rendezvous with our wingman overhead the boat, press to the heavy tanker and get gas, check in with AWACS and proceed to our assigned combat air patrol stations, hit the tanker again on the way back to the boat, bag a trap, park the jet, and get ready to do it all over again a few hours later. After a couple of months on station, we were comfortable with the routine. The trick was realizing when we were too comfortable, complacent, to the point where elements of the mission were dropping out of our scan. We had to consciously fight the tendency to lose focus by committing to an unwavering attention to detail before, during, and after the mission. As a radar intercept officer in the F-14's rear cockpit, I didn't control the airplane, but I wasn't just along for the ride. In certain flight regimes, I was the de facto co-pilot, aware of what the pilot was doing and where the jet was, airspeeds, altitudes, and attitudes, especially during takeoff and landing. Our crew contract also gave me the added responsibility of deciding when we needed to eject while the pilot kept trying to fly the jet during an emergency. I still apply some of what I learned in Tomcat squadrons when I fly commercial these days. Of course, sitting in the cabin of an airliner is different from strapping into the ejection seat of a tactical jet, but there are some, let's call them RIO best practices, you can use as an airline passenger. Let's look at two recent incidents. The first is a Southwest Airlines 737 MAX 8 on its way from Burbank to Las Vegas. As the flight attendants were just beginning drink service, a westbound Hawker Hunter flown by a defense contractor got close enough to cause the 737's Traffic Collision Avoidance System, or TCAS, to go off. The pilot at the controls responded by pushing the yoke forward into a negative G dive. That maneuver caused two of the flight attendants who were standing in the aisle taking drink orders to hit their heads on the top of the cabin, and one of them was hurt badly enough to require hospitalization once the flight landed. Reportedly, none of the passengers was hurt, which is lucky when you consider the percentage that take the seatbelt lights seriously at any given time during the flight. So here's RIO best practice number 1. Strap in. From the moment you first take your seat on a flight, fasten your seatbelt and pull it snug. It sounds simple, but a lot of people don't do this. And for takeoff and landing, give it an extra tug. Remember, regardless of how smooth the conditions at altitude might be, you're in an airplane that can go from 1G level flight into a dive without warning, and if that happens and you're not strapped in, you'll be flung out of your seat before you can react. And depending on how aggressive the maneuver is, you could hit a bulkhead or the overhead hard enough to cause serious injury like that sustained by the Southwest flight attendants. The second incident happened a few days after the first, as another Boeing 737 MAX 8, this one operated by American Airlines, aborted a takeoff out of Denver after either blowing a tire or losing a wheel on the left main landing gear that, in turn, started a brake fire around the strut. Passengers later reported hearing a loud boom and then smelling something burning. As you can see from this video, the emergency doors were removed fore and aft on the right side, and the inflatable slides were deployed. As you can also see, a number of the passengers ignored the crew's guidance to leave carry-on luggage behind, which significantly slows down an evacuation and makes using the slide more dangerous, especially for those carrying children, as demonstrated by this guy here. They're lucky the fire didn't spread in this case. Remember, the airplane has a full load of fuel during takeoff roll. So here's RIO best practice number 2. Right after you strap in, review your egress procedure. Find the exit door nearest you and count the number of rows between your seat and that door. Imagine doing it crawling on your hands and knees and blinded by smoke. And while you're at it, read the safety information in the seat back in front of you and listen to the flight attendants as they review procedures for donning the oxygen mask in the event of loss of cabin pressurization or inflating your life vest in the unlikely event of a water landing. And if you're seated in an exit row, which I prefer due to the extra legroom, study the instructions and mentally go through the steps of how to remove the door instead of just nodding yes when the flight attendant asks if you're willing to assume exit row responsibilities. Take that responsibility seriously because it's possible you'll be the only thing between danger and safety in the event things go wrong during takeoff or landing. And speaking of takeoff and landing, keep the window shades open and headphones off. Feel the acceleration during takeoff and the deceleration during landing. If something doesn't feel or sound right to you, it might not be. And in those cases, keep your cool and mentally review your egress plan. Remember, just like they taught us in the Helo Dunker, Don't unstrap until the airplane comes to a complete stop. And at that point, comply with the flight crew's instructions to expeditiously exit the aircraft. And if the crew is incapacitated, don't wait. Get out of the airplane. Again, leave your carry-on bags, purses, and laptops behind. They're not worth dying for. And RIO best practice number 3, no flip-flops. Wear real shoes that'll stay with you as you're trudging across the blazing hot tarmac, which would obviously be a bad time to be caught barefoot. Somewhere along the line, many of us forgot that while airline travel is safe, it's not easy. The inherent risks are still there like they've been since man first took to the skies. And we should be mindful of that as we put our earbuds in and pull the shades down to watch a movie on our devices. Regardless of how much you paid for your ticket, once you board the jet, you're part of the safety equation. Enjoy your flight, relax, but be present. Stay aware of your surroundings. The life you wind up saving just might be yours. All right, that'll do it for this episode. If you're not already a subscriber, become one so you don't miss anything. And don't forget, Punk's Force, the 4th in the Punk series, was just published a few weeks ago. I'll put all the links in the episode description on where you can get it in all formats, including Kindle and audiobook. And also, US&I Press is offering the hardback at 40% off. Use the code PUNK40 to get that discount. Again, all the links will be in the episode description. In the meantime, I look forward to talking to you again very soon.